Welcome to Father Eric Fast Talks, where we talk quickly about matters of faith. I'm Father Eric. Thus far, in discussing Christian prayer, we spoke about the need to ask Jesus Christ to help us to pray, the need to learn God's language by praying with sacred scripture, the need to understand in what stage of the spiritual life we're beginning our prayer, to understand what our purpose in prayer is, and what general type of prayer we intend to pursue, vocal prayer or mental prayer. Now we must expand massively on those two general types of prayer. We have moved from the general to the specific in defining Christian prayer, defining that stage of our relationship with Jesus, and those two types of prayer, vocal and mental. We'll continue that movement to more and more specific methods of prayer, which will culminate in our unique relationship that each of us has with Jesus Christ. Now, prayer is a very intimate communication with God, but since we do share a common human nature, we can still talk about methods of prayer that will help many of us without losing that unique joy or unique character of the relationship that each of us can build with Jesus Christ in prayer, our friendship with Him. Of course, as a Roman Catholic priest, I will speak from that background when describing methods of prayer. We must remember, though, that the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church that Jesus founded has many different venerable traditions that reach all the way back to the apostles themselves. Within the one Catholic Church, sharing the same faith, the same sacraments, with the Pope as the universal leader and sign of unity, are 24 different churches. And the best description of these groups are churches sui juris, which means churches having their own particular law, their own hierarchy or clergy. In addition to the Roman Catholic Church are the Ruthenian Catholic Church, the Melkite Catholic Church, Maronite Church, Syro-Malabarese, and many more. Each church has its own traditions and its ways that it lives the faith. We call this a rite, R-I-T-E. I'll describe only the spiritual traditions within the Latin Rite. There are some similar spiritualities in the 23 Eastern rites, but I leave that discussion to experts in that field. So let's get to it. Over the centuries, Christians have discovered many effective methods of prayer, and we call these methods spiritualities or spiritual traditions. Like I said in our first talk, prayer includes not only words and rituals, but also ways of living, methods of work, even manner of dress. Even if we don't follow every element of a spiritual tradition, learning about it is very useful for us. The Jesuit Father Charles Healy has written an excellent book entitled Christian Spirituality, and he tackles this question of why we should study spirituality. Quote, "Knowledge of the Christian tradition broadens the limitations of our own horizons. It enables us to recognize the rich variety and complexity of Christian spirituality. It can free us to seek a way in prayer and spiritual practice which responds best to God's grace and is most suitable to our particular vocation. It helps us to develop the skills to be more competent guides for others and enable us to help others without demanding that they be like us or follow our particular way. It brings us into contact with many wonderful teachers, spiritual guides, and holy persons who can inspire and enlighten us as we seek to know and love God in the present circumstances of our lives." End quote. We have many wonderful teachers to meet over the next several talks, so we should have a framework in our mind of the different approaches and methods those teachers will take, the different ways that they point out to us for conversing with God in prayer. One method is called the cataphatic way. This is the way of light. This type of prayer would approach God by means of images, means of analogies and metaphors, and it stresses the nearness of divine condescension, that God comes down to our level so we can know and understand Him who is infinite and all-pervasive. So we can call this a positive approach to prayer, images, analogies, metaphors. The opposite is the apophatic way, called the way of darkness, and this seeks God by transcending all images and human knowledge. It will stress the distance of God, since God is infinite and beyond all comprehension. So our senses, our very intellect, will fail to grasp God. It is almost like looking into an abyss of darkness. Nothing evil is intended here, simply that God is so far beyond us, we must get beyond all images, beyond all positive images, so to speak. We also have a speculative way in prayer. This will emphasize drawing close to God through the mind or the intellect. The more I know God's creation, perhaps, the more I can ponder upon God, the closer I will grow to Him. Or there is the affective way, emphasizes drawing close to God through the heart or the emotions. And Scripture speaks many times of the heart as the center of the human being. We would say the soul in our common parlance, but the heart, drawing close to God through experience, experiencing his closeness to us. And emotions, again, a very uniquely human experience. And last of all, we have asceticism. And that's the description for an emphasis on penances, on renouncing earthly pleasures, things like fasting, manual labor, and chaste celibacy, for those of us vowed to that state. So asceticism seeks to free ourselves of the prison that oftentimes pleasures, passing things can have on us. They distract us from the eternal, from knowledge of God, so we rid ourselves of those things in asceticism. Those are just a few of the ways then that we'll see these different spiritual masters, different spiritualities will seek to approach God. The cataphatic way, the way of light, the apophatic way, the way of darkness, speculative way, using the mind or intellect, the affective way, drawing close to God through emotional experience, through the heart, or perhaps asceticism, renouncing earthly pleasures, suffering, penances, things like that. Now perhaps already some of those ways appeal to you more than others do, and that's an important insight of self-knowledge that we should ponder here. Since prayer is conversation, we find that we can not only talk with God in different ways, but also we're able to hear him in different ways. Perhaps some we can hear God more easily than others. So here's our fourth step in our prayer ponderings for today. In what way do I most easily find God or experience his presence in my life?